Okay, so now we have a senior blockchain developer, Ognyan Chikov from LimeChain, who is going to talk about something called Web 2.5. Welcome on stage.
Rado, thank you for the introduction to the audience, and thank you for having me here today. We're going to talk about Web 2.5, decoding the future for the developers. Somebody asked me, what is this term, Web 2.5? Is it real? Of course, no. It's my term, and you're going to understand why at the end of this lecture. As you already know, my name is Ognyan, and I'm part of one of the most developing, challenging, and exciting science communities, the blockchain community. I'm always starting my blockchain presentations and lectures with something cool from the blockchain space or the blockchain world, and today I'm going to start with WAGMI. What does WAGMI stands for? The abbreviation WAGMI stands for We All Gonna Make It. And I choose it because I believe that we all going to make the transition from Web 2 to Web 3 through Web 2.5. Such kind of abbreviations are commonly used in the blockchain space. Actually, last year, I started with GM, which stands for Good Morning, since my talk was early in the morning, but today we are at the late afternoon, and WAGMI is a good starting point. So, WAGMI. Let me share something more about me. I'm representing LimeChain, and I joined the company 6 years ago. Since then, a lot of things changed. Actually, I was the first employee, and since then a lot of things changed. And I think that I'm a part of that change as well. What I'm talking about and what I mean. Some of you may say, Ogi, everything is changing, especially in the tech world. That's true, and I agree. But today, I want to introduce you to the future that is already here. Today, I'm going to share with you the next generation of web. I'm not going to call it Web 3, because in my opinion, because Web3 is aiming towards full decentralization, and in order to achieve such kind of decentralization, we need to go through Web 2.5. And the journey is not easy, especially for people who are just entering the blockchain space. So, are you ready? Yes. Okay, let's dive in. Web 2.5, where to start from? In order to understand Web 2.5, we need to step back and return to what was Web 1 and what was Web 2. I have a question for you. How many of you remember the time when we used IRC servers to chat and collaborate with each other? Cool, let me help you. Do you remember the program called Mirkata? Yeah, of course. Okay, that was pretty part of Web 1. I remember that time, and at that time, everybody in the tech world was running his own servers. Servers for hosting, servers for emails, servers for hosting fancy things like image galleries, servers. The premise of Web 1 was that everybody on the internet would be both a publisher and consumer of content, as well as a publisher and consumer of infrastructure. But then came time that nobody wanted anymore to run such kind of servers because of need to invest, and moreover, the need to maintain and operate such kind of servers. Even companies building full-time software didn't want to run their own servers. And then the world moved from Web 1 to Web 2. Web 2 is a place where we've got a technology around a platform, and the space consolidates around platforms offering a technology. We can name a few companies, but even without naming them, I'm pretty sure that you already guessed them. Companies like Yahoo, Google, Amazon had a recipe for success. Their recipe was to take a 19th protocol that was stuck in time, centralize it, and iterate quickly. And at that time, we've completed the transition from Web 1 to Web 2. The Web 2 still is a place where users are not owners of anything And everything is around platforms with centralized authorities. But Web 2.5 intends to be different. So let's take a look. Web 2.5 should lead us to Web 3, which will give us the richness of Web 2, but with decentralization, in the centralized manner. And in order to understand all those transitions and the complexity behind the transitions, today I'm going to explain to you the key concepts, the terminology, and the potential impact of the blockchain space for the developers. Actually, not only for the developers, for all of you. So, let's start. What is blockchain and how can I explain it to you? It's complicated, it's hard to understand. I'm not pretty sure that all those terms are true, but today I brought a book. Here it is. The book title is not important. The most important part of this book that I'm going to use that book in order to explain the building blocks of the blockchain network. Let's start with the hash. How many of you knows what is hash? Okay, but still there are people that don't know. So imagine that we can use a math function, take a word from this page, or even take the whole page, or even take the whole story of the book, put it that math function, and receive something like a stamp or a seal that we can put it on the bottom of the page. The cool stuff here is that no matter of the input length, or no matter of our input data, every time we use this hash function, the output will be with the same dimensions. So our seal or stamp, or call it whatever you want, will be with the same width and height. And the other cool thing is that if we just change a single alphabet or a word in our story that we are hashing, our stamp or seal, or once again, whatever we want, will be completely different. We will look differently. So this is the hash. Then we are going to a block. What is block? Blockchain, chain of blocks, blocks everywhere. So think of a block like a page from our book. Block has a timestamp, has a signature, and moreover has a hash. It's hashed. So we've got a stamp at the bottom of our page or at the block. Then we're going to the chain. What is the chain? This is the spine of the book, binding each page together, but chronologically. And why is that? Because we cannot jump on a page 155 and ensure that what is written there, it's true. It's not possible. That's why blocks and the chain and the complete blockchain works differently. Here we've got every page, once again, those pages are binding together, and each page is binded to the previous page, and the next page is containing the hash of the previous page. So we cannot come on page 13, change a word, and just leave our book there. We need to go through all other pages, change the whole story, recalculate the hash, but even more, that book is not with a single copy. There are thousands of copies. We need to go everywhere in the world and change that story in the book. Then, what is the consensus mechanism? Imagine that you've got all the same book here on your hands. We cannot agree, or we need to agree that something is written on page 155 only when we've got the majority of that statement. We cannot sit down and just take a single source of truth that here my colleagues on the first row said on page 155 it's written this and that. We need to achieve majority, and that is how the blockchain networks validates its data, with consensus mechanisms. The most used ones are proof of work and proof of stake. Proof of work, maybe you know for this term mining, you need to prove that something is done. And proof of stake, you need to stake some amount of money in order to validate that you're not going to lie, because you're going to lose that staking amount. Then we'll continue with the smart contracts, something that my colleague in some of the previous lectures explained, but I'm going to explain it in another way. Imagine that there is a vending machine outside of the room. You put coins and you get that book. There is no shopkeeper at the process. It's just you and the vending machine. The smart contracts are like digital contracts with a fragment of code that can be executed based on some kind of rules. When you met those conditions, the code will be executed. transactions. Something interesting. Imagine that you can come here on a particular page and put a footnote. Imagine that this footnote will be visible to all the people that has this book. And those transactions can carry value or can pledge value. Then wallets. Imagine that the wallets are your personal index or appendix at the end of the book. You put some interesting markers for you from that book, and they are carrying values. Cryptocurrencies. Those are the unique bookmarks that you store in your wallet at the end of the book. And you can use those unique markers to trade stories, to trade sentences, to change sentences, or to write another page in that book. And we're arriving at the new developers' paradigms. What's different here in that space? It sounds really complicated, but we need just to go through some of the paradigms and explain what are the specifics. We are going to start with the applications or so-called decentralized applications. We are not talking about applications because up to now, with Web 2, you're just readers with particular book. But right now, with decentralized applications, you can participate in writing another pages, another stories, or another books. Enhanced security and privacy. There was such a question before. But keep in mind that I already explained to you why it is not so easy to hack the network, because you need to go all around the world and change what is written on every copy of the book. Monetization and tokenization. Those cryptocurrencies are something like a spare part or a separate part of the whole blockchain. The main nature of the blockchain is decentralization and the no middleman of the process. It's just you and the blockchain network. There is no admin with super access to the database that can change values and delete something or add something. Interoperability and collaboration, my favorite part. Imagine that we can take a single sentence from that book and transfer it to another book. We can create another unique stories that are built with information from this book. And this is the ability of communication between the different blockchain networks. It's something like it is currently on the table of the blockchain networks because we are still in the early 80s if we compare the blockchain networks with the IP protocols. Because currently the blockchain networks are so-called closed networks. They are more like intranets. And nowadays, we've got different kind of protocols that are trying to standardize the communication between the blockchain networks. And the so-called Web 2.5 stack. What you need to know in order to enter into the blockchain space, in order to achieve decentralization or just to collaborate. This is the API stack. I'm going to start with the application level. Actually, when we go through those kind of layers, you're going to see that there are just 2 or 3 layers that you need to learn or you need to go through and specify, because the other things are most likely into the Web 2. We're starting with the application layer. We've got a new protocol here, which is the JSON RPC protocol. It's simple and lightweight protocol used for communication. The HTTP and WebSockets are well-known protocols. The new stuff here is 2 libraries, if you're using JavaScript, of course, Ethers.js and Web3.js. Imagine that those libraries are like any other kind of libraries that you used for third-party integration of any kind of service, and we've got the well-known front-end frameworks. So it's really easy to be accessible from the developers. Then we've got the gateways, Edge Global, it's the same here, middleware, cache, reverse proxy, and load balancer. Nothing new. Then we've got the blockchain nodes. Yeah, you need to know what are the nodes, you need to know how you can run your nodes, but it's not necessary. Running your own node is difficult because you need to get a very expensive hardware with a lot of storage, synchronized with the network. It will take time. So there is no need to do that. There are providers, third-party providers that you can use. Save that for later. Third-party providers. Okay. Then we've got the blockchain protocols. We've got Ethereum. We've got another layer 2 networks that you can build applications, but it depends on what is your product and what you want to achieve. So yeah, you need to be aware, but it is something that you can clear during the journey. Then the internet protocols, TCP/IP, DNS, all those kind of protocols, no matter from which layer of the TCP/IP stack is, they're all the same. And then the compute and the storage, everything is the same. We're using cloud providers for some stuff, hardware and OS-based storage. Then we're coming to the other representation of the blockchain layer. We're going to start with the access layer. So on the most right, you can see Web 2. So you can access the Web 3 through the Web 2 layer, and this is with the crypto Twitter, Reddit, and Discord. Those are the places where you can start in order to collaborate with other blockchain developers, ask questions, questions like, my code does not run, to questions like, where I can start from. Then we've got the wallet and the in-browsers wallets that you can install and access the blockchain immediately. And here I'm going to answer the question why I call it Web 2.5 and still not Web 3. I mentioned third-party providers. 90% of today's transactions are going through Infura, which is a third-party provider. And there is something like a pattern. We're running from Web 2 to Web 3, where in the Web 2 we've got a technology around the platform, but right now we've got still a technology around the platform. Yeah, it's another platform, but it's still a technology around the platform. So there is a long way that we need to go in order to achieve full decentralization. That's why I call it Web 2.5. Then I'm going to continue. We've got different kind of aggregators that you can use, DeFi-specific protocols that you can go and just invest your money. That is already here. Then the use case layers. We've got almost every aspect from your life covered with the blockchain. You're going to see that into the next slide. But here you can think about something like gaming, social, DeFi, all those things around the NFTs. They first was just inexpensive images, but right now they can be used like for assets, transfer those assets, or just even a digital passport. So it's something that is already here. Then the infrastructure. We've got a ready-to-use solutions that you can use in order to build your product without a single line of code. My favorite is part of the secure. It's Open Zeppelin. I can say here that it's not only part of the secure stack, but it's something that you can use to build NFTs, to launch your tokens. It's a standard, community standard for writing smart contracts and use their ready-to-use patterns. So it's something that it's already here and you can use it as an instrument. And then we are going to the protocol layer. Yeah, at the beginning, it was Bitcoin, then Ethereum with the first layer 1 network that you can execute those smart contracts. But after that, there were a lot of problems that needs to be solved. Somebody asked at the previous lectures for the throughput, transactions per second, etc., etc. There are layer 2 solutions that can solve such kind of problems. High throughput, low transaction costs, etc., etc. And we are coming to the current Web3 landscape. And I promise to you that you can see almost every aspect of our life covered by the blockchain. So we're at the stage where we are not just the readers of this book. We are creating such kind of books. We are creating those books through different kind of publishers or networks. So we can take just a single word from here and transfer it to another, let's say, publisher or blockchain protocol to write the most unique story of our life or of the blockchain developer. And now it's time for questions.
Any questions? Maybe from the first row?
Don't be shy, ask anything. Yeah, there's one over there.
Hi, thanks. Could you please elaborate a bit on the book analogy, like how everyone that is part of the network is contributing? Is it content to the app? Like I'm picturing it Web 2 stuff. So like currently everyone can contribute to content or post stuff online. Can you contribute to the, so to say, app itself? So for instance, if there's a Facebook on Web3 and I want to change the logo, does that start a new chain and I can... Yeah, people can use it or something, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So keep in mind that not all the business logic of an application is suitable for putting on the blockchain. First of all, of course, we've got such kind of storage which is called decentralized storage, something like IPFS, because storing such kind of, for example, profile picture on the network is really expensive because we are paying for the node or for all other people that got this book to carry that book. And if the book is more like heavy, you're paying more. So not everything is suitable for putting, first of all, on the blockchain. How we can contribute to the network? We're using the transactions and we are paying for that transaction. We're paying for the execute of the transaction. Of course, there are different kind of protocols that you can choose based on what you want to pay and for what, but the answer to your question is that with your example for, let's say, social network, we can use the blockchain to validate that something is written, to hash something. Of course, we cannot change the current, let's say, the current proof that something is written there, but we can go there and write something else on top of it. And it's something like when you exchange cryptocurrencies. If it's written that I have 10 tokens and you've got 10 tokens, then the next transaction will be that I am giving you 2 tokens and you've got 12 and I got 8. So this is like for what blockchains can be used. It's something like the centralized ledger when you got proofs that something has happened. Yeah, is that answer your question? Okay.
Okay, I think we had one question there. Do we still have the question?
The title of the book is Present Like Steve Jobs. It's a random book that I found on my desk early in the morning.
Okay, thank you. That was a really interesting
Thank you very much.
presentation. Thank you.